Good morning. My name's Grant Christensen. This is Alex Poirier, and we're going to talk a lot about pencils. So this is a Blackwing pencil, and it was used by John Steinbeck, Walt Disney. John Lennon was rumored to have written Beatles songs with it. Had a huge cult following before it was discontinued.
Yeah, and fans started buying them up wherever they could get them. They were spending up to $40 for a single unused Blackwing pencil. That's where we came in. So our company has been in the pencil industry for over 100 years, primarily in wood supply, supplying wood to Faber-Castell, Caran d'Ache, Eberhard Faber, all the big companies in the world. We knew all the tricks, so we knew how to make an exceptional pencil. So around 2010, that's when we brought the Blackwing back. At first, it was pretty much a hobby. It wasn't a business. It was something that we had fun doing, but we didn't know if there was an appetite for a pencil in 2010, let alone 2026. But there were 3 validations that we came across along the way that showed us that not only was there an appetite, there was a real need for pencils.
So it was about 10 years ago, we started a program called the Volumes Program. And 4 times a year, people subscribe and they get a box of pencils on their doorstep, sight unseen. They pay in advance. And each edition is a tribute to some person, place, or event in creative culture. And so when we first started this, we were coming upon the 50th anniversary of Bob Dylan plugging in at the Newport Folk Fest. And so we were able to get word to his publicist about this project. And we got an email back and it said simply, Bob digs it. Validation number 1. Validation number 2, it was long rumored that John Steinbeck was a big fan of Blackwing pencils. We got an email address. Somebody gave us an email address for his only living heir, his son Tom, who was a very prolific writer, and wife Gail. And I sent a cold email that said, we're this old pencil company. We're trying to bring this pencil back. Your dad may or may not have used this pencil. We're trying to learn more. Not expecting to get a response. And within an hour, I got a response from John Steinbeck's daughter-in-law, Gail. And it said, Tom and I know exactly who you are. We've been following your every move. We think it's great. You're the only newsletter we subscribe to. The next time you're down in Santa Barbara, look us up. And we did. We jumped in a car. We drove to Santa Barbara. And the Steinbecks invited us into their home.
And Tom was like the living embodiment of his father.
Yeah, we got to spend the afternoon with him and listen to stories and deep family secrets that neither one of us have repeated since. And we left that day. Tom said, we should work together and design what would be my father's perfect pencil. He had a lot of opinions. He loved Blackwing. He wrote the first draft of Grapes of Wrath with a Blackwing. Let's try and create what would have been his perfect pencil. Validation number 2. Validation number 3.
I was in Florida and I was at a theme park expo. I spoke with, it seems like someone from every department at Disney. Imagineering, archives, animation, cruise lines, like you name it. They showed me, photos of animators animating Beauty and the Beast with Blackwing pencils. They showed me photos of Imagineers designing rides with Blackwing pencils. They showed me photos of Walt's desk with Blackwing pencils in the pencil cup. And I was blown away. The last person I spoke to that day was the head of the Disney Cirque du Soleil show. And he came up kind of coy and was like, we're a big fan of what y'all do. You should come to the show tonight. And I walked into the theater. It was a giant animator's desk, complete with 12-foot tall Blackwing pencils. And that wasn't where it stopped. The show was about a father and a daughter. The father had recently passed away, and he had left his daughter a note. And in that note, he encouraged her to find her creative voice and to remember his. And she left him his lucky pencil, his lucky Blackwing pencil. I left that thinking back on these 3 validations that Grant just mentioned. The first one, we worked with Newport to tell a story about Bob Dylan. Second one, we worked with the Steinbecks to tell a story together. And now here I was, the biggest storytelling entity in the world, Disney, and they were telling our story for us. And that's when I knew that we had something special. I'm sure you all have heard people talk about frictionless design, trying to remove barriers between your product and the people using it. But we tend to take the opposite approach. I mean, we really embrace friction. First of all, a pencil relies on friction to function, right? The friction between the graphite and your paper is what leaves the graphite behind. But we also see that friction as an opportunity for new product designs. Pencils need to be sharpened. Okay, let's design a beautiful sharpener that feels really nice in your hand. Sometimes pencils get too short. They're not comfortable to use. Okay, let's design an extender that makes sure the pencil's always the right length. Pencils need paper. Okay, let's make some notebooks and figure out a way to make sure there's always a pencil attached to them. So friction, I would say that's one of the core things that I think about. How do we expand this line? How do we design more products that go beyond just the pencil? And our most recent one was the pen. We just launched our very first pen
After 4 years of development.
So we designed a pen, and we used everything that we learned about designing pencils to design a pen that felt like it was part of the family that we had designed. You know, one of the things that I love personally about using a pencil is that it's an organic tool, right? It's made of wood. It's made of graphite. These are things from the earth. And when you hold it, it feels warm. In my experience, pens tend to feel a little more clinical, a little more detached. We wanted to make sure that the same kind of warmth came through in our pen. So we used a coating that warms the pen up a little bit. It doesn't feel so metallic when you're holding it. We also picked an ink. It's a rollerball ink cartridge. It has that same level of smoothness that you get when using our pencil. Blackwing pencils have been known for their smooth graphite for nearly 100 years at this point. So we wanted to make sure whatever ink we were using had that really smooth laydown. And finally, the tip that we chose is 0.7 millimeter, just about the same width as a sharpened pencil. These are the details that we obsess about. You know, in addition to friction, that's what's driving not only our product decisions, but business decisions. We want people to slow down, pick up a pencil, pick up their notebook, sharpen that pencil, and write their thoughts. But we also want them to shop locally in their local communities. I mean, we sell our products into independent businesses so that folks can go out in their communities and buy the tools that they want. We have a foundation that supports music and arts education so that kids aren't just test scores. They can actually develop creativity. They can develop problem-solving skills. You know, slow down. It's really the decision-making tool that we use.
And you used the word earlier, you said human. I mean, it's really about connection. I mean, we live in this world where constant barrages of notifications and texts and social media, it actually leaves us less connected. And so it's about being more connected, I think, and pencil to paper is kind of the conduit. And it's really part of a larger ecosystem, a larger analog ecosystem that is happening in the world with vinyl records and books and film and photography. We really leaned into music along the way because of the history of Blackwing pencils. Quincy Jones wrote in his dedicated 2 pages in his autobiography about Blackwing pencils. Stephen Sondheim famously, when they got discontinued in the mid-90s, he went and bought up enough boxes to stack from the floor to the ceiling of his pantry of Blackwing pencils to make sure that he would never run out. So there's this storied tradition of music. And so one of the ways we tried to bring attention to the pencils and to this whole analog lifestyle is we started our own record label. A good friend of mine named William T. Taylor, who's a great folk singer-songwriter, and we went out and made a record for him that he put out. It was a great record. I remember opening up iTunes one day, and he was, I think, number 9 on one of the charts, ahead of Ed Sheeran and Bruno Mars, this little folk singer that this pencil company put out a record for. But then when we talked about the day we met the Steinbecks, I walked in Tom's living room, and we tripped over a guitar case. And so Gail said, "I'm sorry, that's our nephew. He and his wife are touring musicians." And that musician was Johnny Irian, who was married at the time to Sarah Lee Guthrie, who's Arlo Guthrie's daughter. Johnny now runs our record label, and he helps curate music for our label. And so now we have this element of it where it's pencil to paper, it's needle to vinyl, it's the act of listening to music. Everybody listens to music as background noise, right? It's in your car, it's on at the office. But the act of literally sitting down and engaging with music and engaging with songs has that same kind of health benefit, that same type of feeling as putting pencil to paper.
I'm sure y'all have probably sat in on a session or two this week talking about AI and how it's either going to save or end the world. I really think that this is the counterculture. Analog tools are the counterculture. And that's the energy that we bring when we're designing products, right? We take risks, we try new things, tell new stories, we push the envelope, trying to get people excited about pencils. I think we're not even close to the end of it.
There's a long way to go. I think discovery is a big part of it too. And so we've tried to use storytelling to help people discover the pencil and discover this kind of analog ecosystem. We've got Towns over here. Sound guy's name is named after one of the best songwriters, Texas songwriters ever lived. It's pretty cool. A good buddy of Towns Van Zandt, who he's named after, was Guy Clark. And so we actually made a pencil as a tribute to Guy Clark. We put that pencil out, and we got an email a week later. It said, "I'd never heard of Guy Clark. I got the pencil. I looked him up. I listened to his music. It moved me so much. and he included a photo, and on his forearm, he had one of Guy Clark's lyrics tattooed on his forearm, all within 7 days. So I think it's that act of storytelling and discovery. And now we've built a fan base of people that like to discover things. They like to discover new music. They're open-minded. And so as we talk about the future, I think that's what the future holds, is continue to find ways to introduce people to this analog ecosystem. And again, it all starts and usually comes back to a pencil. But I mean, we've had some pretty wild ideas of where to go from here.
Thank you so much. I guess the question is, how do you guys think about innovation in your product development? I mean, you did that obviously for the pen, but then again, there's a tight innovation cycle and then you stop. So I just go like, as a company, how do you think about innovation as part of your business?
For us, innovation all revolves around storytelling. That's where we try to push the envelope with our pencils. When we're telling a story, we're not just telling a story with written word, we're trying to tell a story with the product itself. This is an addition that we did with Keith Haring. Thinking about the pencil as a canvas to tell your story is what really pushes us to innovate. It's a very thin, very long canvas. It wraps around on itself. There are, like any canvas, there are trim lines, there are safe zones. But thinking about a pencil in that way isn't really something that the industry does. And so when we're telling stories through design, that's where we're pushing innovation.
I mean, we've tried to push the limit on what you can do on a pencil as well. You know, we did an edition that was a tribute to public libraries, which was really cool because we worked with the New York Public Library and some other big libraries, and we actually drove people to libraries, and that edition glowed in the dark. And we did a pencil as a tribute to Lake Tahoe. It was basically a topographic map of Lake Tahoe you could feel on the pencil.
Hi, I'm building a rock climbing products business. It's a new business that has mission, story, community, at least a little bit, but it's all very new. So what advice do you have for a company that doesn't have 100 years of history to build on? Like, how can I connect to that community through our products?
We did have a little bit of a shortcut, being able to point to John Steinbeck and people like that. But I think really from day one, what we tried to do is we tried to focus on the users of tomorrow. I mean, one of the things we did, being musicians ourselves and being into music, and obviously there was a history of music with the brand, we started seeding pencils to musicians early on. Music fans are a very loyal consumer. And so we kind of identified a group of loyal consumers and focused on that group. And we started seeding pencils to musician friends of ours. And pretty soon they started popping up in studios. And we've had musicians that would tell the story of Blackwing pencils on stage. So I think finding a loyal audience, and there's a lot of them out there, music fans are just one example, and really focusing on that from the get-go. At least that's one thing we did that it seemed to work pretty well.
But yeah, drilling down to like, what is your core message and how is that informing your decisions? I think if you find the right message, it will inform who you're marketing to. It'll inform, the aesthetics or, the way you design things. It'll inform the messaging that is coming out. The right message can inform everything.
Hello. Thank you so much for this talk. It's been great. I work at UT Austin in the College of Fine Arts and Career Services, and we have a lot of art students, studio art, design students who I think are really in this technological shift and like fast-paced kind of career world that they're looking towards after graduation, really wanting to hold on to like a lot of slowness and intentionality, but don't feel that they can do that. So I guess how would you suggest that they can kind of claim and hold on to that slowness, their intentionality in their work while still like seeking employment and feeling like they're competitive in doing that?
It's going to be tough, especially in the private sector, because everybody wants to move fast, move faster. And I mean, it's one of the things, talk about friction we've dealt with. We come here and we tell all the rosy stories, but I mean, this is a family-owned business with a board of directors that we have to answer to. And it's always been faster, double the business. It's created friction in and of itself. So, I mean, the first thing I would say is not to expect it to be easy. But I also think I was a musician for many years. And I stopped playing music. I stopped writing music. And it was when we started doing this and I picked up a pencil again that I started making music again. And I didn't realize that was a huge void in my life up until that point. I mean, it was this pencil literally got me to pick up a guitar and start writing songs again. And so I think what's going to happen to a lot of those kids is they are going to be motivated to put their pencils down, so to speak. And I think just creating and making things, and again, we talked about friction, when things get tough, just continuing to make things. Maybe they have to go work somewhere else and do something else for a while, but continuing to fight through that and just make something. I think that there's an inherent health benefit to that. And I think that's probably what will keep them on the path to get to their ultimate goal, even if it doesn't happen right away.
I never thought a story of a pencil could be so fascinating. As former musicians, how would you make a career out of being a musician in this time?
I'm not kidding when I say if we had a genie in a bottle right here, probably the first thing I'd wish for after taking care of my own family and health and all that would be finding a way to solve this conundrum and getting musicians a way to make a fair living. It's nearly impossible. I wish I could crack the algorithm. I wish I could figure out the solution. I think one of the suggestions, physical products. I mean, I think that's one of the reasons that vinyl is still strong and one of the reasons that vinyl records have surpassed CD sales. It's hard to make money on the road anymore. So there are some performance models that we're working on that we've tested out with Johnny and some other musicians that you're seeing a lot more in terms of residencies versus getting on a bus and traveling the country. You know, I mentioned Willie T. Taylor. I mean, I think last year he played 262 gigs across the United States in a van. You know, he's able to make a living, but certainly not the type of living he'd like to make. So there is no answer to that. I wish there was an answer to that, but I think physical tools are part of the answer. I mean, we've made pencils for artists that they can go sell, because I think what we're finding is a lot of these artists, maybe they don't have tens of thousands of fans, and the ones that do can just listen to music for free. But if you can get 1,000 people to buy one of everything you make, buy every record you make, every t-shirt you make, every box of pencils you customize, that's a step in the right direction. Obviously, probably most people in this room get it, but I don't think enough is being talked about nationally about how difficult it is for these incredible makers of art to earn a living. Well, great. Thank you, everybody. Thanks all very much. Thank you.